Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is pretty exciting for me. It's another one that I've been working on for a while, and I just finally finished the last book in the series, so now we can talk about it. And we are going to be talking about the Wallflower series and the Ravenel series by Kleypas. And also the Wallflowers meet the Ravenels. So this is exciting. Also want to give a shout out to Hello Lovely Box for my Wallflower shirt. Look how cute. Has all the wallflowers on there. Look, Evie even has red hair. I love it so much. I am a rep for them. My discount code and a link to their shop is down in the description box. So, okay. I feel like most people who read Lisa Kleypas start out with her Wallflower series. That is not where I started. I started with Lady Sophia's Lover, her Bow Street Runner series, and then I actually read again The Magic, which is the prequel to the Wallflower series. I did not bring it down from my shelves, but again, The Magic is a prequel to the Wallflower series. It is basically part of, well, we'll talk about it when we get further into talking about the series and what characters are in which book. So, all right. So there is some crossover between the Wallflowers and the Ravenels. We see the Wallflowers are the parents of some of the children in the Ravenels. Not all of them, some of them. And then they also have crossover with a Wallflower and Ravenel in this new book, which is The Devil in Disguise. I will not be giving spoilers. I have read this book. It comes out July 27th. So, what I kind of wanted to do was just basically go over each book in the series and talk about my favorites, what I liked, and maybe what didn't work for me, and just kind of gush about it, if you will. So, let's talk about the Wallflower series. So there are 4 books in the Wallflower series. Each one features one of the original Wallflower characters, heroines that we meet in book 1, which is Secrets of a Summer's Night. So this cover, which I actually think is just completely stunning, this is the recover edition, so this isn't the original old school cover with the step back. I don't have that for this book. I have some of them. I have Autumn and Winter with the step back, but not this one. So the first book in the Wallflower series, not the prequel, is Secrets of a Summer Night. So this book follows Annabelle. Annabelle is in desperate need of marrying a very wealthy man. Her family is really on the brink of ruin. It's basically just her mom and sibling, I think maybe a brother, I can't remember exactly. And they're really, really desperate for money, and Annabelle is extremely beautiful. Everyone admires her beauty. However, she has no dowry because she's extremely poor. So she has kind of been on the shelf, as it were, a little bit, and she can't really find a husband. This is when we see all of the Wallflowers meet, and they sort of work on this deal that they will help one another find suitable husbands that are either going to, you know, not be like an old super wealthy man or just like a really gross guy, like sort of the one who is eyeballing Annabelle and which could technically save her family, but he's really a despicable, gross old man who has used her mother in terrible ways, and Annabelle is trying desperately to avoid him. Now, Annabelle ends up meeting Simon, who is an American man, and he is a self-made man. So because he doesn't have a title or any type of aristocracy around him, he has made his fortune entirely himself. He fits into society, but sort of reluctantly. Like, people welcome him because he's so wealthy, but also, like, he's not necessarily a suitable match because he doesn't have a title, because that's just how things were in England in the Regency time period. But Annabelle and Simon have a very powerful attraction. Like, wow, so powerful. Simon wants Annabelle so badly. And the thing that makes Simon such a great character, I think, is that he doesn't just want her physically. He doesn't just want to make her his mistress. Like, he is determined to have her fully. He wants her to be his completely. And Annabelle is struggling with that because of a lot of it is the bias that comes along with him being a self-made man. And she sort of fights with that, with her attraction to him. And this book was really so beautiful because it shows Simon's attraction and Annabelle's attraction just really gradually, beautifully, subtly develop into true love. And all throughout the books, in the Wallflower series, we see Annabelle and Simon, and their love just seems to continue to grow more and more powerful. It is like they are a true love match. It was so beautiful. Originally, when I read this with a reading group, and I noticed that I was loving it, honestly. I was really loving it, but the reading group, they were being a little critical of it, you know, and so it kind of made me give it a lower rating than I felt like it should have, so I have since matured, and I rated this full 5 stars because I really enjoyed this. I think their love story is beautifully romantic, and there is a caretaking scene in here that is fantastic, and I loved it so freaking much. So this book I think was a great start to the series. We do see a little hints of the family that was mentioned in, again, The Magic. They play a big role in the series, so that was really fun. This was a 5-star read for me. Simon is probably my 3rd favorite hero in the Wallflower series. We'll rank them when we're done talking about them. So the next book in the Wallflower series is It Happened One Autumn. This book is Marcus and Lillian. Marcus Westcliff, he is the Earl of Westcliff, and he has basically the oldest, most venerated title, family lineage in England. Like, his family goes back so far that he is really considered, even though his title is an Earl, which is lower than a Duke, he's considered like, wow, like the elite of the aristocracy. And he matches up with Lillian. So Lillian is one of the Wallflowers who is from America, and her sister Daisy both have books in this series. Their family is, again, self-made, a huge fortune. They make soap, they are extremely wealthy, and they have come to England partly to work on business deals, Lillian's dad, but Lillian's mother is determined to get her daughters married to a member of the aristocracy. But even the mother, who is really seeking a great titled match for her daughters, would never even dream that Marcus would be interested in Lillian and Daisy because he is just like way, way, way up here in the aristocracy. So this book is probably my favorite in the series. I love it so much. This was a full 5 stars. This is probably closer to a 6-star read for me in that it just really went above what I was expecting. I loved this book so freaking much. Marcus is one of my favorite heroes. He is so passionate and so attentive, and he is just such an honorable guy. Like, he is going to not let anything happen to Lillian. Like, he will fight to the death for her honor. He is extremely protective. And I really loved, because this is sort of an enemies to lovers, like Lillian and Marcus butt heads a lot. Even in the beginning, in the first book, we see them have a little bit of a scene where they're not really getting along and are sort of like, they're not necessarily enemies, but there's definitely a lot of animosity there, but there's also this big, huge attraction, and it just is so compelling to read about because there are these beautiful moments where they sort of give into that attraction a little bit, but then instantly they're like, what did I just do? You know, it was so beautiful. This is super romantic, just extremely well done. It had me on the edge of my seat towards the end because things are happening with the plot that may end very, very badly for the Wallflowers, and I just loved it so much. So Marcus is probably... he's probably my 2nd favorite hero. Probably my 2nd favorite hero. Loved this book so much. This one I think is really a standout in the series. It's so good. Okay, let's talk about book number 3. Book number 3 is probably the most famous book in the Wallflower series, and that is Devil in Winter. I feel like even people who haven't read the whole series in order have usually tried to read this book. This book takes our most famous and our most written about Lisa Kleypas hero, Sebastian St. Vincent, and it tells his story and how he gets to be in love with Evie, one of the Wallflower sisters. Evie, she has my heart. Like, I just love Evie so much. She comes across in the earlier books a little bit timid, a little bit shy. She has a stutter. But in this book, she really is so resilient. She is so determined to go after what she needs and what she wants. And she is just like this woman who is not going to let people walk over her anymore. She's sort of at the end of her rope where she is determined to take her life by the hands, and she's going to make hard choices that are going to make her if not happy, at least better off than having other people make her choices for her. So I really love Evie. I think that she is probably my favorite heroine in the Wallflower series. I think she is just absolutely fantastic, and she is the perfect match for Sebastian St. Vincent, our hero. So we have seen St. Vincent mentioned in the first book, and he plays a big role in the second book, and he is really set up to be the villain. He is a villainous hero, absolutely a villainous hero. When you read what happens in the first book, the second book, you will understand that he is absolutely a villain. He is the rake of all rakes. He is a playboy through and through. He is a charmer. He knows how to seduce women. He knows how to turn on the charm, and he is just an incredibly enigmatic and alluring hero. Like, he is just so compelling. Everyone is just drawn to him, and to get his attention feels like a victory in itself, because he's just so charismatic, you know? Like, he's a beautiful man, but he's also, like, so charming, just oozes charm. So this book begins where the second book leaves off on a cliffhanger. Evie is determined to take her life into her own hands, so she ends up coming to St. Vincent and saying, okay, I know you need someone with a fortune. I have a fortune. I will marry you if you promise to take me away from my relatives who are going to try and get me married to my cousin so the fortune stays in the family. So they end up marrying, and this is their story, and it is beautiful because we get to watch St. Vincent, the villain, just completely, slowly, sort of back and forth at times, just crumble. We see this playboy, this rake, just crumble to a devoted, loving husband of Evie. Like, it's so beautiful. There were so many moments in this book where I'm like, you idiot, you love her, you know, and he is so not ready to admit it. And when he finally does, it was just so beautiful. I love this book. I think it is perfection, but I really feel like you can't read this book on its own. Like, you really have to especially have read the second book to get the full impact of St. Vincent and to see his redemption arc and be really completely satisfied with that. So, without a doubt, this is my favorite hero. St. Vincent is my favorite hero in the Wallflower series. He's honestly just, he's fantastic. I love him. Okay, and the last book in the Wallflower series is Scandal in Spring. This book is Daisy, the other sister, Lillian's other sister, so she is American, and she's the last Wallflower to be married. She's sort of feeling like, is she ever going to marry? Is she ever going to find someone to marry her? And her parents are determined to make an arranged marriage with her, so she ends up sort of paired off with Matthew, what's his last name? Swift. Matthew Swift. So Matthew Swift is also an American, and he is an entrepreneur, and he's known for just being ruthless, and she cannot stand him. But her father is determined that she's going to marry this man and have a rich and successful marriage. So this book, out of all four of them, I feel like this one is probably the weakest. It's still good because it's Lisa Kleypas. Honestly, I feel like she's just such a master storyteller that she really, like, she hardly ever misses, honestly. I feel like, having read more of her works now, I feel like she very rarely misses. But this one felt like not a miss, but definitely not as engaging as the others. And honestly, I feel like Devil in Winter is such a tough act to follow. Like, I don't know how she could have topped that. And I've kind of wondered why she chose to tell Daisy's story after Evie and St. Vincent, because it really feels like Evie and St. Vincent's book could have been just the complete perfect series finale, but it wasn't. Anyway, I did enjoy this book. There is some trope of like mistaken identity and hidden identity, and it was really beautiful and lovely, but compared to the others, and particularly books 2 and 3, it was a 4-star read for me. So it's not bad, it's great, but not the best in the series. So this hero is my least favorite hero in the Wallflower series. Matt is number 4. So let's rank the books and let's rank the heroes. So my favorite book in the series, honestly, it's tough for me. I feel like these two are the best books in the series. It's hard for me to choose one or the other. I love them for different reasons. They're just such completely different stories. So these two are my favorite. I can't choose and you can't make me choose. Okay? and then Secrets of a Summer Night, and then the last book is my least favorite in the series. So if I am going to rank the heroes, my all-time favorite hero is Sebastian St. Vincent. I just love him. I think he's just so compelling. And he gets even more compelling the more books that you read in the series, the more books that he features in. He just like gets layers and layers and layers added on him, and I just love it so much. So he's my favorite hero, followed by Marcus, followed by Simon, and then last is Matt. I'm sorry, Matt, but you just can't compare with these other guys. So that is my ranking of the books and heroes. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are my favorites right there. Okay, so now the fun thing about these books too is that Devil in Winter does have some crossover with her other series, which wasn't published at the time, and that is the Hathaway series. We get to see Cam Rohan, the hero from this book, Mine Till Midnight, play a pretty big role in Devil in Winter, and also the backstory in here of Evie's parentage is actually also featured in Dreaming of You with Derek Craven, who is my second favorite hero now. He's my second favorite hero. I'm sorry. It's true. He's my second favorite hero. Okay, now let's talk about the Ravenel series. So the Ravenel series takes what she started in the Wallflower series and she just like expands on it so much. It is just such a beautiful series. The Ravenel series is my all-time favorite historical romance series. I think it is beautifully executed. I love the family. I love the different connections that the characters have. I love the stories that are told here. I feel like these last books right here, I feel like from 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, I feel like these are some of Lisa's strongest books that she's ever written. I feel like they're just so completely beautiful and honestly pretty much perfect in just about every way. I love them so much. Alright, so let's talk about each book individually. Okay, so the first book in the Ravenel series is Coldhearted Ravenel, and quite honestly, I didn't like this book very much. It's still, like I said, like it's still good because it's Lisa Kleypas, but this is by far my least favorite Lisa Kleypas book I have ever read. This was a 3-star and I was pretty disappointed in this, and I feel like I hate that because you really need to read this book to get the beauty that happens in the rest of the series, but I also like it's tough for me to recommend because it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm making it out to sound worse than it is, but it doesn't compare at all to some of her other books. So this book starts the whole Ravenel series when we have Lady Kathleen, who is recently widowed, and her husband left, when he died, he left, the estate was left to his cousin, Devon Ravenel. So Devon Ravenel comes in to take care of the estate, and he sees that Kathleen is left there, and Theo, who is her husband who died, his 2 sisters are there too, and they are the Ravenel sisters. Devon is an extremely unlikable hero. Like, he is just, honestly, I feel like he is my least favorite Lisa Kleypas hero ever. He does get redemption towards the end of the book, but more especially in later books in the series, but in this book, he's pretty unlikable. I felt like they weren't really a love match. It was very much driven by physical attraction, and I didn't really feel the love that he had for them, but it does set up the series. You were introduced to other characters who are going to come into play in later books, and it's a book you have to read the other books, but it's my least favorite, and my least favorite hero. So this book is the last, and my least favorite hero. But the great thing about this book is that it has a pretty big side plot for the hero and heroine who are in the second book, and that is marrying Winterbourne. Rhys Winterbourne is he plays a huge role in this book, like huge. Almost as much as St. Vincent does in the Wallflower series in books 2, and then he gets his own book in book 3. So I feel like in order to really enjoy Marrying Winterbourne, you really have to read Coldhearted Ravenel, because the hero and heroine in this book, Winterbourne and Lady Helen Ravenel, you really don't get their full arc in this book. Like, you get more of what happens with their story in Coldhearted Ravenel. So starting off this book, I knew this was a fan favorite, and I was hoping to really love it, and I absolutely did. This hero really is another reformed rake, very similar to St. Vincent, but not completely alike. You know, there are similarities there in that he's a reformed rake. He really has a bit of a villainous character, not as much as St. Vincent, and then he completely loses it for Helen. Like, he is gone for her so much, and it is just delightful. It is beautiful to see. I have heard Rhys Winterborn called a stern peppermint daddy, and he absolutely is. He is just fantastic. He's a great one. So I really enjoyed this one. This is where the series really started to take off for me. This was just such a delightfully complex story of their relationship that I really loved it. But it is not my favorite book in the series. So that's book number 2. Now the third book is where I really started to fall in love with this series, and that is Devil in Spring. So interestingly enough, which if you're a fan of Lisa Kleypas, I feel like I'm probably preaching to the choir in here and that most of you already know about this series and you know what Lisa Kleypas does, but if by chance you don't, I'm taking a moment to explain it to you. So usually whenever Lisa Kleypas has devil in the title, that means that St. Vincent's are going to be involved, and that is exactly what happened here. We have Pandora, who is a Ravenel, and we have Gabriel St. Vincent. He is the son of Evie and Sebastian. So this book was absolutely delightful. Our heroine is a little bit quirky. She's a little bit not like other girls, but not in a way that's like, it doesn't like say she's not like other girls. Like, she's just such a unique heroine. She's very, very strong. She's very determined to live her own life and not be required to marry a man. And she also is a board game designer, and I absolutely love that about her. I thought that was so unique and so fun. She is so great with the St. Vincent children. She gets to meet them as she goes to like the beach with Gabriel and things like that, and she just was freaking delightful. I just loved her character. I loved her romance with Gabriel, who is just absolutely besotted with her. Like, he just adores Pandora. This was beautiful. I loved this book so much. This one was a 5-star read for me too. Marrying Winterborn was 5-star. Coldhearted Ravenel was 3-star. This one is top. One of my favorites in the series. I just loved it so much. So the next book that we have is a really fun one. That is Hello Stranger. So this book is very unique in that it doesn't necessarily have close-knit family from either the St. Vincent's or the Ravenels. The hero in here is Ransom, Ethan Ransom, he is like a detective. He works for, I'm not exactly sure what his title is, but he's basically a detective, inspector, something like that, works with police, and he is pretty much a very celebrated detective. Like, he's extremely good at his job. And he ends up, this book opens when he's sort of following Garrett, the heroine, who is a doctor. She's the only female doctor in London at this time. It was actually illegal for women to be doctors, and she had to go out of the country to get her license and then come back. And it's just delightful. I love that about her. She's such a strong heroine. I really love how she just is so completely ballsy about going and doing the work in her career, and she's not going to let anybody tell her what to do. I feel like she is a really great example of how Lisa Kleypas does understated feminism so well. Like, it's never thrown in your face. There's never like this agenda that is overtly ruling everything in the page. It's just Garrett is living her life that she wants to live in a time when society is telling her you can't do that. And it's not her necessarily, you know, coming out with a big outward agenda. She's just out there living her life, and it's her story that unfolds. And I think that's what part of the magic of these books are, is that Lisa Kleypas knows her characters so well that she's literally just telling their story and letting them live their life. And you're so invested in their lives because she has that characterization just on point that it never feels contrived. It never feels, you know, like she's just trying to make the story fit her. It's just absolute perfection, and I loved it so much. Sorry about that side tangent. So, this book is delightful. Ethan ends up basically trying to protect Lady Garrett because people are after her. That's how the book begins, when he sort of comes and tries to protect her, and she's trying to fend off these men who were going to attack her. And it's just beautiful. I loved it so much. Also, Ethan is a Ravenel, but he's a byblow, so he's not necessarily recognized as being part of that family. He was a byblow, but this story was fantastic. 5 full stars for this. Really, really loved this one too. And now we come to my 2 favorite books in the Ravenel series, and that is number 5, which is Devil's Daughter. Oh my gosh, I love this book so much. It is so beautiful, you guys. Like, I feel like this book is so romantic, and it is so sweet. And this book made me feel like so many different things. I felt like my heart was being like tugged and torn in so many different directions. This book follows Phoebe St. Vincent. She has Evie's red hair. She's one of the St. Vincent daughters. And the book opens with sort of like a look back at her childhood, where she meets her husband. They were childhood friends and then became sweethearts. Her husband was very ill, and it wasn't expected that he would have a very long life. They fell in love, and he was resistant to marrying Phoebe because he didn't want to leave her alone, because he knew he was going to probably die young. He does, in fact, pass away, and she is a widow, but she also has 2 young children by him. And I love that. I love the children. It's just so beautiful. So the hero in here is West Ravenel, who we meet initially in Coldhearted Ravenel. He's a little bit of an interesting character. He kind of teased Phoebe's husband when they were kids, and so she's kind of always held a grudge against him, and she doesn't really like him, and she doesn't want him anywhere near him because of what he did to Henry, her husband. And West he's a little bit of a joker. He doesn't take himself too seriously, but he has like a heart of gold, and he is so good with Phoebe's children. It is absolutely delightful how he just loves them and is so tender with them, and he is just like, oh my gosh, I love when there are children involved, but their interactions seem so real and so vivid, and it doesn't feel like fake or forced just to get on the woman's good side or the man's good side. And I feel like that is exactly what happened here. It was just so beautiful. I love this book so much. This is my second favorite book in the series, and oh gosh, I don't know if he's my favorite hero. We're gonna rank these heroes too, okay? But he's probably, I can't rank him. This is my second favorite book in the series. I love it so much. It's fantastic. Okay, and the last Ravenel book that we have is Chasing Cassandra. This one I think is a fan favorite. I feel like most people really love this book if they have read it, and I am no different. I gave this book 5 stars. This hero was moved up into my top 3 Lisa Kleypas heroes. Tom Severin is fantastic. He is the man who dearly loves his woman, but he like doesn't admit, he feels like he can't love, you know, like it's just like so good. Like that trope never gets old for me. I just dearly love it when the hero is like, I can't love, and then the heroine is like, I want to bet. It's just so great, you know? So this book follows Cassandra, who is a Ravenel. She's Pandora's twin. She's a plus-size heroine. She is just such a sweet person. She's very loving. She loves animals. Like, I love how part of the marriage contract involved her having a dog and being able to have a dog. Like, it was so freaking beautiful. I love her so much. She's a very, she's a strong heroine, but she's not necessarily in-your-face strong. Not that Garrett is, the doctor from Hello Stranger, but she has a real quiet sense of strength, sort of like I think Phoebe does in Devil's Daughter. She's very strong. She wants to marry for love, and she's not going to marry any other way. She's just determined that if it's not a love match, I don't want it. I don't want just a marriage of convenience. I want to marry for love, and she's determined to have that, specifically because of Pandora and Gabriel. You know, like, she feels a little bereft when Pandora marries and moves out, and she feels a little lonely, and she ends up meeting Tom Severin. Tom Severin is a self-made man. He has made his fortune. He is one, you know, like, he's, like I said, one of those men who just doesn't feel like he can love. Like, he just doesn't feel like that's in the cards for him. So, but he is so taken with Cassandra, like her curves, her luscious beauty. He just wants her so badly. And he doesn't just want her as a mistress, like, he wants her for his wife, but he's like, you just have to be okay with knowing that I can never love you and this is not a love match. And she's like, well, I'm not okay with that. And so he eventually goes through all of these things to try and win her over and convince her that he can make her happy, and maybe he won't love her, but of course he loves her, you know? Like, this man is out of his mind in love with Cassandra. It's so beautiful. He does this really beautiful grand gesture that is so unbelievably grand, and he does it because he loves her, but the idiot doesn't know he loves her, and it's just so perfect. But I will say this book is so romantic. It is swoonily romantic, like swoon for this book. And there's the most beautiful scene in here where Cassandra loses one of her shoes at a ball, and she is sort of ashamed to get out because she doesn't want people to realize she lost her shoe. Tom goes under the table to retrieve it and then takes her privately, and they have this barefoot, this barefoot ballroom dancing scene. it like did things to me. It was so romantic. I loved it so much. This is my favorite book in the series. This is my favorite hero in the series. Tom Severin is fantastic. So let's rank these books, shall we? Okay, last of all, least favorite hero, least favorite book is Coldhearted Drake. I'm sorry, that's just how it is, okay? And then probably my second to last favorite is Marrying Winterborn. I did still really like this, but I loved the other ones better. And I can't decide if he is my least favorite hero or not. Is he? Is he? No, he's probably not my least favorite hero. Then my next favorite book is Hello Stranger. This is my third from the bottom. I loved this book, but these three, I just love them so much more. So this hero is probably above Devon from Coldhearted Drake, but below Winterborn. So I'm sorry, Ethan, I still love you, but you're not quite as good as the other guys. So then my favorite, my 1, 2, 3. So the fourth, or my third favorite book is Devil in Spring. I love this book. This is the book that made me fall in love with this series. I thought it was so fun. It was so funny. It was so cute. It was romantic. I just loved it so much. Gabriel, it follows. He's my third favorite hero. I just think he's just absolutely delightful, and he's just so fun. My second favorite book in the series is Devil's Daughter. Also, West is number 2 hero in this series. I think it's just fantastic. I love this beautiful romantic second chance at love story. It's perfect. Which leaves, as no surprise, my favorite book in the series and my favorite hero, Tom Severin and Chasing Cassandra. Love this book so much. Okay, so there we have our wrap up for the Ravenel series and the Wallflower series. We do see characters from the Wallflowers into the Ravenel series, and it's just so delightful. I love how she interweaves her characters together and lets you see their lives. It's just so much fun. Now, let's talk briefly about Devil in Disguise. So this book is technically the 7th Ravenel book, or it is on Goodreads listed as the 3rd book in the Wallflowers meets the Ravenel series, which I think is interesting. So if you're following along on Goodreads, the other 2 books in the Wallflowers meet the Ravenels is, oops, not that one first. First, Devil in Spring, second, Devil's Daughter, and then Devil in Disguise is 3rd. So this is how they're ranked on Goodreads in the Wallflowers meet the Ravenel series, which I think is really fun. Now this book comes out July 27th. I saw this at my Barnes & Noble, and I had to get it because I wanted to read it desperately. I read it in a day. Absolutely love this book. This book is so romantic. This is the most romantic book I think I have ever read. This is definitely the most romantic book I have read by Lisa Kleypas. This was a 6 out of 5 star read. This is in my top 3 books of the year. This hero has dethroned Derek Craven. I said what I said. Keir McCrae is a Scottish man who makes whiskey, and he comes to London because he's importing whiskey there through the shipping company that the heroine, Merritt, who is Lillian and Marcus's daughter, Merritt runs after her husband has passed away. So that is how our heroine, Merritt, from the Wallflowers, and McCrae meet. It is their romance. That's all I'm going to tell you about what happens. It is just so completely beautiful. I absolutely loved seeing both the Wallflowers and Ravenels in this book. It is honestly, I feel like, a perfect historical romance. I don't say that lightly. This book was fantastic. It is well worth reading all of those books so that you have the full history just to get to this one, because it was literally beautiful perfection. I loved it so much. I can't wait to talk about this book with everybody once everybody reads it. I just love it. I love it so much. Honestly, like, there are so many lines in here that I dog-eared this book and I highlighted it because I'm like, that is literally one of the most romantic things I've ever heard in my life. This Scottish man who like, he feels like he's just not good enough for Merritt because she's such a lady, she's so elegant, she's so poised, and he's so rough around the edges, and the things that he says to her are just so beautifully romantic. I can't even deal with it. So, there we have it. There's my discussion for the Wallflowers, Ravenels, and Devil in Disguise. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to let me know your thoughts on these books down below. You can let me know who your favorite hero is and which your favorite series is, or whatever, or, you know, let's just talk in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. I will see you in my next video.